Okay, back here at the field, another beautiful day, but today is 13 degrees, not 31 degrees like it was 2 weeks ago. Amazing difference in temperature. Anyway, I've got a few things to try today, but the main one I want to try is this new copter that Diatone have sent me. I can show you it here. So it's a 10-inch tri-blade quad. It comes shipped with the Mamba F405 V2, which caused me a few problems because it doesn't have a barometer, the Mamba 405 V2, and so I had to put a GPS on the front here. You can see the GPS there, GPS and compass, otherwise I wouldn't be able to get any sort of altitude holding, and soldering that up was a little bit of a challenge. In the end I had to disassemble it, because this is supposed to be a sort of ready to fly copter, where the motors just plug in and you just plug in the leads here. So that was very nice, apart from the fact that I had to solder up the GPS and compass. It comes with a VTX, which you can sort of see in the back here, maybe. So it's a Mamba. I feel like it's a Mamba 1 watt VTX, quite high power, and it also comes with Sirius F receiver, the 900 megahertz version. So that's very nice. So basically everything I needed to fly apart from batteries and GPS and compass. I've tuned this up and it seems to be tuned okay. It's quite, as you can imagine, with big props, there's a bit more noise going on, so we'll see how it flies in reality. A couple of things I had to do. So you can see there's sort of these dual battery slots for it, and I think it's probably designed to take bigger batteries than this. Obviously the GPS and compass is in the way, and also I found that the way that you can see the XT60 connectors here point backwards, and it actually makes it quite difficult to fold the batteries back on themselves, so I had to put these extension leads on. So I expect with bigger batteries that might be okay, although maybe if Diatone made the XT60 connectors point up, that might actually be a better way of doing it, and you could sort of plug in pretty much anything. And I think the other thing probably would be nice is if there was some kind of external connector for the GPS compass somewhere. It's got an integrated connector for the ESCs on the main board, which is probably difficult to see. It's kind of but anyway, I can assure you it's there. The ESCs themselves, I think these are Diatone ESCs. They sit here in this little housing here, and you can see that the airflow blows into the top and so cools down the ESC here, which is a nice little touch. There's actually space for 2 ESCs here, so I guess the idea is that this might be a sort of coax X8, but this is actually only an X4. And the ESCs are BL-HELIS, but they are capable of BlueJ, so I've flashed BlueJ onto here so that I can get RPM feedback. The mounting, so that the actual frame, you can see that the arms tilt up slightly, so the motors are tilted in slightly, which just reduces the efficiency a bit. I can see why it might be an interesting thing to do, because it means they're just off the ground a little bit more, but from a kind of performance perspective doesn't really help, probably hinders a bit. And also it's easy in the wind to get, because the things because roll and pitch would be sort of overly compensating, it won't sort of hold so well in the wind. Anyway, it's pretty nice looking, and I'm going to give it a fly and see how it goes. So very nice. Alright, so that worked pretty well. I've got it in loiter here, you can see it's hovering quite nicely. And that's just using the GPS for altitude, which seems to work pretty well. So I flew it in FPV, I tilted the camera up a bit. One thing to notice is you get a lot of props in your field of view with the camera tilted up. Quite distracting, so obviously not designed as an FPV vehicle. Obviously you want to put quite a big payload on there, like a big camera or something, but the FPV is just a nice way of seeing where you are. The motors came down cool, so I think noise is pretty good. Clearly some more work to do on the noise level because it is shifting a little bit. There's not much noise, there's not much wind here today, so it's a little bit too jerky for my like. And then flying FPV as well, the current sensor is clearly wrong. So I said I'd only taken 300 milliamp hours, which cannot be correct for a copter of this size. So I'm going to have to tune that up. I don't actually know how the current sensor works because it's got usually these are a voltage from a 4-in-1 ESC. This is 4 different, there's no power distribution board, but I can see these 4 different ESCs, each providing, no, maybe there is a power distribution board, so maybe there's something on the board that's providing the current sensing, or maybe the current sensing is wrong, who knows. So I need to get to the bottom of that. Yeah, overall flew pretty well. The camera isn't quite as high quality as my other FPV drones with analog cameras, so I felt like I was squinting a bit more. But all in all, worked pretty well, no issues with range. CRSF worked well, and yeah, so I'll return to home worked well as well. So I'll probably give in one more flight, and then yeah, say that's a good job. Alright, that was pretty good, and you'll see I took a little bit of FPV video on the goggles. So I made a couple of adjustments. I've upped mix man, just give me a little bit more control, and I set the current, the amps per volt current setting to 4x the default, because I figured that maybe it's correct, but only for a single ESC, and of course there's 4 ESCs, and maybe they're showing all a similar voltage, but actually the current draw is 4x, and that seemed to be pretty good. I have to say, it kind of looked like it was believable, not 100% accurate, but believable. So I think maybe that's a good solution. And I tried a couple of flips, and that worked. A little bit slower, but you'd expect that from these low kV motors. I think the interesting thing is, of course, they are lower kV motors, and so it's actually quite efficient. So although I've only got these 2 racing quad batteries on it, I can cruise around for quite a long time, and the battery just seems to keep going. So, you know, lower kV motors, bigger, more efficient props. Obviously there's no payload on here, so you add a payload and that's going to sort of radically change the dynamic, but at least for cruising around it worked pretty well. Pretty pleased with that. And no crashes, and RTL worked fine, and I was getting good signal from the GPS, so all in all pretty good. I think it needs a little bit more of a tune, a bit more of an in-depth tune, but that requires a windless day and a bit more time, so I'll do that later. But all in all, seems to work pretty well. Pretty impressive, nice looking quad, and yeah, I shall play with it a bit more.